After a long tease of leaked specifications, prices, and dates, we finally have leaked images of the Nikon Zf. Does this mean that an announcement is imminent, that something is coming soon? Well, stick around after this short break for all the details. But first, please do me a favor. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, but most importantly, please subscribe to this channel. It doesn't cost you anything, it really helps this channel get noticed, and it keeps you up to date on the latest camera gear, news, and rumors. Thanks to ASobiNet for these leaked images of the Nikon Zf. But one thing is glaring, one thing stands out to me more than anything else. Despite modern technologies, despite 45 megapixel camera phones, we still get leaked images of new cameras that are never high resolution. And these images of the Nikon Zf are no different. But what should be striking here is that the retro look we were promised by Nikon rumors and Sony Alpha rumors is not that silver on black look, but an all black model. But the images do show us the back, the buttons on the back, the LCD, that it's a fully articulating LCD, but most likely not a 4-axis LCD like on the Sony a7R5. And on the front, we've got a good image of the front as well with the 35mm prime. But those dials on the top, well, we can see them clearly from the front and, well, almost clearly from the back, but we can't really make out what they are or what capabilities these buttons have. While I do appreciate a good-looking camera, such as this camera here, the Nikon ZF-C, with its silver on black retro look, it just looks stunning to me. It's got that, I don't know, that industrial design, that certain, maybe it's because it's harking back to a different time when I was young, when I was a child in the 70s, where things were very different, things were very peaceful, because from the viewpoint of a child, all the worries of the world just didn't impact me. And I like that retro look so much that I've still got my Fuji Max here. Look at this thing. This is not a retro looking camera, this is a retro camera, and it's a film camera. I just love the design of it, I love the look of it, and that's kind of what I was hoping to see in the Nikon Zf. Now maybe they're coming out with the silver on black model, but to me that is the true retro look. But let's get beyond the look for a minute here. After all, I shoot with Canon, so I'm not too concerned about the look and the design. I care about functionality, and there's one thing that's striking in this $1,999 camera, and that's its sensor. It is a 24 megapixel sensor, it's a full frame sensor, but it's backside illuminated. And I get it, it's not stacked. Very few cameras are stacked close to this price point. I can remember there's a Fuji camera, not the Fuji Max obviously, but the Fuji XS, sorry, the Fuji, it's early in the morning here, so let me see if I can remember this, the Fujifilm XH2. I believe it's the XH2, it could be the XH2S. Either way, I've flipped up in post, obviously I'll put up an image here telling you what it is, but it's at around $2,500 and it's stacked. So we are getting to a point where stacked is becoming far more affordable. But backside illuminated still offers us many great capabilities. Backside illuminated is what changes the architecture of the sensor, so that way the light isn't having to pass through all these different layers. It's hitting the photo sites directly, and then all the electronics, all the other stuff, is the wiring is on the back. And what that gives us is better low light performance, better dynamic range. It gives us most of what we want in a stacked sensor, but what a stacked sensor gives us that a backside illuminated sensor doesn't give us is the raw speed. The ability to move a whole lot more data a whole lot quicker. And if you're dealing with sensors like the Canon EOS R5, the Nikon Z8 that have 45 megapixels or more, then yes, having a backside illuminated sensor that is also stacked really makes a huge difference when you're, well, on rolling shutter, and of course getting that detail, low light performance, dynamic range. But again, as the Canon EOS R5 has shown, well, you know what, it's not stacked, it's not backside illuminated like the Z8, but it still produces very good results. So here we are, we have a 24.4 megapixel full frame sensor. I have trouble speaking this morning, but it's backside illuminated, so I think that's a big deal. A lot of people are going, no, it's not stacked, don't really care, but backside illuminated is a big deal. You'll see a lot of the leaked rumors on this camera say it can shoot 30 frames per second, but in the small print, you'll see that it's HEIF and JPEG. And well, I think for a lot of people, and this is, I think, a vast majority of people that are hobbyists, RAW isn't that big of a deal. They're perfectly happy with JPEG and HEIF, and I'll be honest with you, HEIF, it actually looks really terrific. I've shot a few images in the past to see the difference. For example, shooting a picture of my subject, backlit against a forest with beautiful green leaves and a blue sky behind it. Shooting JPEG, well, what happens is those images, the sky, when you zoom in, when you pixel peep, may look gray. But when shooting HEIF, it looks blue, and it does make a difference. But raw matters. And on the Canon EOS R5, I shoot RAW and JPEG, and most of the times I'm using those JPEG images. But there are times where I look at that JPEG and I'm thinking like, or HEIF, and I'm looking at it going like, you know, that doesn't look that great. You know, we've got some problems with the highlights, we've got some problems here. And RAW allows you to fix a lot of that stuff in post that you couldn't do with JPEG or HEIF. But still, 30 frames per second, it's pretty common. We see this in the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. It's not backside illuminated, but it can shoot up to 40 frames per second. We see this with many other cameras. And even the Canon EOS R10, the R7, the ability to shoot up to 23 or 30 frames per second, we're seeing this pretty common in JPEG. And video-wise, well, 4K up to 60 frames per second. Now, there's no mention if it can do 120 in 1080, but 4K up to 60 frames per second, it's a pretty solid camera. And I think the one thing to make note of here is the Nikon ZF-C is in no way a revolutionary camera that some people were looking for. But I don't think that was what Nikon was intending. I think what they were intending to do here was to release a camera with a retro cool look that was a solid camera at $1999. And if that's the case, they've definitely done it. Now, if you're looking for some more impressive specifications, you want a more modern look, then I think the camera to look out for is the Nikon Z6 Mark III. We don't have any leaked specs on this camera at this point, and if we are going to get a refresh, then one this fall is definitely plausible, and I would expect something September or October. But at this point, we've heard absolutely nothing, and there's no more registered cameras, at least I haven't checked this morning. So if the Nikon Z6 Mark III is coming, I don't think it's going to be coming until October, but I think that's going to check more boxes for more people. I think it's going to be slightly more capable, and I think it's going to give us some different capabilities. I don't think we're going to get dual card slots, with one of them being a micro SD card slot. And that's another unique thing about this camera, to give it dual SD card slots, but having one of them being a micro SD card slot, that does tick one of those boxes as being a slightly strange camera, a unique camera. But let me know what you think about the Nikon ZF, if this is a camera that you're considering, or if you're still waiting to see what Sony's going to do with the A7C II or the A7CR. And based on the feedback from my video yesterday, most of you agreed with me that pricing for that camera, there's no way that Sony's going to go ahead with the pricing, as I talked about in this video here, for the Sony A7C II and the A7CR. Because if they do, it's going to just, well, everyone's scratching their heads. If you're curious about the pricing, go ahead and watch that video. But yeah, we're going to have that camera. It's supposed to be announced on August the 29th. And at this point, we don't have any date, let alone time, for the Nikon ZF. But what I've noticed in the past is when you get a whole bunch of detailed leak specifications and you start getting images and pricing, that usually means that an announcement is imminent. And when I mean imminent, I mean in weeks. But here we do have back to school, and that happens right around, I don't know if it's the 1st of September this year or closer to the 7th, but what could happen is the Nikon ZF could be announced within the next 2 weeks, and if that doesn't happen, then the next announcement window would most likely be sometime around the second week of September to the end of, well, not October, probably the end of September. That's the most likely time frame. So I'm really curious to see. I'd love to get the Nikon ZF announced before we go back to school, and I'd like to do a live stream of that, but well, we'll just have to wait and see. As soon as I know more, you'll know more. I'm expecting some more leaked images that'll show us the top dials and of course the sides to verify that it does have a micro SD card slot and a full-on regular sized SD card slot. And one thing you might have noticed if you've just started watching my videos here is right at the bottom I have smart pre-order links. What are they? Why do I have them? Well, in most cases when a camera company announces a new camera, they announce it body alone and with a kit. And then, of course, camera companies like Adorama and B&H, they will come out with their own kits offering a camera bag, cleaning gear, and memory cards and all that kind of stuff. So quite often we get multiple kit packages. So what this will do, this smart pre-order link will actually show you every single SKU available at Adorama and B&H. It doesn't work right now, as it says in the links down below. These will be available as soon as we get the announcement by Nikon. As soon as the embargo is lifted, these smart pre-order links will work. So go ahead and copy them, bookmark them, and what they'll essentially do is save you anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds so you can get in the queue a little bit quicker, pre-order your camera, and get it before anybody else. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, then go ahead and subscribe and choose all notifications. But that's it for now. Have yourself a great weekend. We've only got a few weeks left of summer. Well, at least a few weeks left of summer in the northern latitudes, especially up here in Canada, because once Labor Day hits, once September the 1st hits, we see an almost dramatic shift in weather, and gone are those really hot days, and things start to get a lot cooler at night. We get a lot more rain, and all those plans for going somewhere on a nice weekend, well, they tend to dry up. I don't know what it's like in Germany and France, and well, I know what it's like in Britain because I used to live there. It rains all the time, with the exception of a few summers where things can get rather sunny and hot. But summer's coming to an end, so if there's some shots you want to get, for example, I was in Niagara Falls last week, and I got these incredible shots shooting with the Canon EOS R5 in 4K at 120 frames per second, and just look at this. This is absolutely stunning. These are the Horseshoe Falls. This is on the Canadian side. I also went onto the US side, Niagara Falls, New York, and I got these pictures of their falls. And you know what? There's a definite contrast and difference between the two. The Canadian side gives you this kind of impressive awe, the thunder you actually feel in your chest of the water flowing over the edge, the vast impressiveness of nature and the forest. And on the US side, you get up close to it. There's something more personal about it. So with only a few weeks left in summer, get out there, take your camera, go shooting, and enjoy the weather. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.